there aren't many games that I would say are perfect. You guys know me, you've known me for a while now, and I don't throw that term perfect around often. Not with movies, not with video games, not with books, not with TV shows. I only use the term perfect for things that are absolutely perfect. So let's talk about what we're going to do today, which is talk about Banjo Kazooie. So here in this new series, we're going to be going over every single game that I have streamed in the past, whether it be on YouTube or on Twitch. Obviously, we're going to start with the YouTube stuff and move on to the newer stuff that we've been doing on Twitch. I'm going to be doing a tier list at the end of this all, so, we can see where games are kind of placing on the board. Some of these games I've played before in the past, like Banjo Kazooie, Call of Duty 3, etc., etc. Other ones are my first time playing them, and those will obviously be more of a first time playthrough impression, but I think the points and stuff will still stand. We started our playthrough of Banjo Kazooie, with the Xbox 360 version, of course, on March 21st, 2019. This was before Banjo Kazooie was announced for Smash, and everyone was using the hashtag Banjo for Smash. We started this playthrough to support that hashtag. What started as a regular Let's Play, casual playthrough of the game turned into another hunt for the 100%. In the end, we did get the 100%, spoiler alert, but it didn't start out as that. Once I started going, I just decided to get everything I could, and it ended up being a 100% run in the end. Banjo Kazooie is a game that I've played a lot. I won't say that it's my most played game, but it's definitely one that I like to play almost yearly, and when I do play it almost yearly, which is probably every other year to be honest with you, I do go for the 100% almost every time. And I was planning on this playthrough just be a quick, simple thing. I go over what I like about the game, show off all the levels, and then, maybe beat Gruntilda, maybe not, depending on how the playthrough's going. But for me personally, I just can't stop. I can't just do that. Banjo Kazooie deserves more respect than that. So, what do I love most about this game? Well, Banjo Kazooie was one of the first games that I played on the N64. We got an N64 Christmas Day back in the 90s, and we got Mario 64 and Diddy Kong Racing on the same day. Banjo Kazooie came along after I had completed Mario 64, and immediately I was completely enthralled by the game. Not only did it impress me on a visual scale, but the amount of moves and fun music that was in it also gave me goosebumps. Even now, when I go through more playthroughs of the game, I always have that same amount of fun, and I always have the same amount of awe and wonder when playing the game. And I think that's mostly due to the incredible soundtrack. Each level has its completely new vibe. Gruntilda's Lair also has a very nice theme, along with the fact that it changes as you go through each area. So if you go to the area that has the entrance to Treasure Trove Cove, it's going to start playing Gruntilda's theme in a more Treasure Trove Cove kind of feel. Same thing with Rusty Bucket Bay and Freezy Peak and all the other levels that you can think of. Something like this you don't normally get in a game. Or especially a game like this. You look at the future games in the series, or even what Playtonic is doing right now, and you don't feel that same kind of flowing music throughout the game. Even though I personally really loved the Impossible Lair, each level didn't have a same sort of underlying tune like this one does. The music really helps with the atmosphere of the game, making this game feels way more like a fun romp than games in the future of this same series, including Nuts and Bolts and Banjo Tooie. A lot of people say that Banjo Tooie is better than this game, and to me, that just sells Banjo Kazooie 64 short. We started Banjo Tooie, but I did not get to finish it on the channel. And the reason for that is because I was just not having fun with the game. The game was slow-paced, lots of dialogue, lots of elongated cutscenes that weren't needed, a lot of meandering around these giant levels, and instead of it being a fun collect-a-thon where, you kind of continue on through these levels and collect as much as you can, it more so became, what's the next task I have to do this? What's the next task I have to do that? And it's a lot of like just switching around, going back and forth, and it's not as flowing or fun as Banjo Kazooie. Now, I've talked to people about this game, and mostly the people who defend Banjo Tooie get a little bent out of shape when I give my reasons for not liking it. Now, that doesn't mean that your opinion is more valid than my opinion, or my opinion is more valid than your opinion. It's just a personal opinion and a personal preference. But to me personally, Banjo Kazooie trumps every other Banjo Kazooie game, including Ukulele, including the Impossible Lair. There's just something about this game that always fills me with that childhood memory of playing and just having the best experience of my life. I'm so glad that Xbox put the game out on the Xbox Arcade, and they've also included it in the Rare Replay. Now, when we played through it, we played the Xbox 360 version. The Xbox 360 version adds a few new features like the ice keys and the eggs, the mystery eggs and stuff like that. And you get avatars and like clothing, I think, for your avatars or for your like little characters as you go through the game. Now, I've been through this game enough times to know what levels are good and what levels are bad. In my opinion, all levels are good. Our last playthrough in March solidified that fact to me. Each level has its own nice groove to it, and own nice feel to it. Characters who match the style of the level that you can interact with. Bosses that test your knowledge of the controls, and also test your knowledge of the special things that you can do in the game, like shooting eggs, flying, etc. Golden feathers. Some levels don't have bosses, but they do have groups of enemies that kind of gang up on you, or, just a difficult platforming sections in general. One of my favorite levels, which actually is probably most people's least favorite levels, is Clanker's Cavern. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, that garbage heap? Yeah, that garbage heap. When I was a kid, this was the only level that made me feel uneasy. It was the only level that made me feel frightened. And it still gives me that intensity as you go down to turn the key to release Clanker so that he's not breathing in only garbage, And you get that final click, and Gloop is down there, and he gives you your final air bubble that you need to go back up, and you're just swimming up as fast as you can, and the music is just so eerie and creepy all the way at the bottom, and as you get to the top, it changes almost fluidly as you go up, and then you finally take that breath, and you're at like 2 underwater honeycombs, and it's one of those feelings of great relief. You've done a completely difficult part of the game, and you don't have to go back down there ever again. Or do you? Because there's items down there you need to collect, including a Jingo. Clanker also has several completely different areas. You have the opening area, which doesn't have much to it. You just kind of learn the new enemies that are in this level. There's just some collectibles to get, like the musical notes and stuff like that. Then you go to the underwater section and Clanker's official cavern. And this is a section that has 2 different levels to it. The underwater stuff, actually it has 3 different levels to it, because there's the underwater stuff, there's the stuff you do in the middle, like where Clanker's floating, and then there's stuff you do at the top as well, and all around the different like freaking pipelines you can go through as well. The third place is inside of Clanker himself. Now, this is the creepiest part of the game, I would say. Going inside of a living trash compactor and just kind of doing your thing in there. And once again, it's another one of those things that's like, as soon as you dip under the water, that eerie, creepy music comes back that's all the way at the bottom of the level, giving you that same feeling of just kind of anxiety almost, you know? But that's what I love about the level so much, is that it just has all these different things to it that are all so well done. Let's move on to another level that I really, really enjoyed, especially in my latest playthrough, which is Tick-Tock Woods. This is another one of those levels that there are different layers to it. Now, this one is pretty much, it's a pretty simple level, right? There's the area around the tree, and then there's the tree itself. And you can, of course, climb the tree as much as you want. The thing that makes this level completely and utterly unique is the fact that there's 4 different entrances, and each one is its own season. Summer, winter, fall, and spring. And with those, each of those levels, the area around the tree and the tree itself changes. So in the summer, you know, things are green, things are alive, things are moving, enemies are everywhere. The leaves on the tree that you climb on, they're all nice and bloomed. The squirrel character you meet is having, you know, he's outside and he's enjoying the sun, and you're collecting some nuts for him, right? And the tree house is almost finished, and there's wood planks that are practically finished at this point. But it's still, like, there's no floor in there and stuff like that, so it's not completely done yet, but the summertime is like this beautiful time. If you've been watering the plant that's in it, the flower will start blooming. It's one of those things that's very aesthetically pleasing. Go into fall. Fall, the leaves shrivel up that you climb on. There's piles of leaves everywhere because, you know, that's what you rake leaves in fall. You know, the squirrel is more so, you're getting more and more nuts for the squirrel. You're feeding this baby bird worms. And what you're doing in this level is affecting the next level. So let's go to the winter level, right? Everything's frozen over, the landscape is seemingly desolate, right? There's new enemies that appear in this part, like the ice cube guys, and the snowmen come back. But for the most part, it's a pretty barren landscape with not too much going on. But you go up the tree, you see that the eagle has blossomed into a young man, and he's ready to take off because you fed him. Or that you go into the squirrel's house when he's asleep for the winter. Then spring comes around, everything's melted, there's new leaves starting to form, so they're just small little stepping stones. And the level changes so much, and the music changes so much, and I think this level has one of the best musical soundtracks in the entire thing. Even the hub world, like the hub area where you go into the 4 different entrances, has like this unique feel to it, you know? There's different enemies in each little area, there's different things to collect in each little area. It's a very fun level. Let's move into another level that I really enjoy, which is one of the last levels in the game that you will do, Rusty Bucket Bay. Rusty Bucket Bay is another one of those levels that people despise because it's difficult or because it's so different from the rest of the game. It's just a big, rusty ship in the middle of a harbor. If you try and swim in the harbor, even if you're not underwater, you'll lose blue honeycombs for air. There's just that, once again, just like Clanker's Cavern, there's that growing difficulty in the game, that growing kind of anxiety while you're doing things. Going into the engine room with all the spinning wheels and fans and stuff like that, that has ended so many people's speed runs, that has ended so many people's no-death runs, that has ended so many people's love for the game, just because that area is just so difficult to get through. Now, I've perfected a way to get through it, right? You hit the one switch on the right first, you go to the left one, hit that switch, because that's a timed one, and then you have a pretty easy way to get out rather quickly. because you don't have to go up and then over. Yeah, you can just kind of jump over a gap. This level also has probably my favorite music in the entire game. It's full of running xylophone. You know, it goes up and down the scale, and it's got a lot of baritone and lower noises because it's a ship, and it's a very fun soundtrack, and I think that it's probably the best one in the game. Now, I'm gonna admit something to you guys. I'm kind of scared of the underside of ships, whether it be cruise ships, boats, canoes, etc., etc. I don't know where this fear came from. Maybe back in the day when I was a kid and I fell off the inner tube that we were pulling along behind the family speedboat. Nothing too special. But the boat actually went over me at one point. Maybe that's where it came from. But I just know that the underside of a ship gives me the heebie-jeebies. You ever seen the Poseidon Adventure? Yeah. Pretty spooky. The Titanic? Pretty spooky. This game also has underside of a ship. And it's even more so spooky because of the music that happens, because of what happens underneath that ship. There's a dolphin stuck under an anchor that you need to save. There's a puzzle piece inside of the rudders, inside of the freaking fans underneath the ship, and it's a pretty spooky ordeal. There's also other areas in this dock where you are going into these like aluminum buildings, and you have to watch out for the shark that swims around down there. You have to watch out for these freaking fish with giant tusk teeth. It's one of those levels that it's a pretty big challenge to get through, especially when you're a younger kid. But that's what made it so much more fun for me. And yeah, I like the easier levels too. Treasure Trove Cove is still one of my favorite levels. Gobi's Valley is also still one of my favorite levels. Are they more difficult than the others? No, they're about on par with the rest of the game, but they're still fun levels in general. You meet so many fun and enjoyable characters. They all just come together so well in this game. At the end of the game, there is a quiz show, which people have, you know, they don't like it as much as me, but I think it really tests your knowledge and really gets you thinking, right? There's all these like there's snippets of information about Gruntilda throughout this game, whether it's from her good sister or from her herself speaking to you as you go through the hub world. And just kind of knowing what she's said is a little bit difficult. And one thing that I recently found out is that each playthrough or each version of the game, she says different things. So, you know, her broomstick might not be called Lardmaster 2000, it might be called something else. Of course, it's always one of the three answers you can get, or you can give, but that makes it unique to you, which is really cool. The final boss fight in the game is also really well done. It incorporates everything that you've learned throughout the game, including shooting eggs, using your gold feathers, flying and dive bombing, and it's just one of those things that like it is a pretty difficult task. But if you've been collecting things throughout the game and you have maximum health and you have everything that you can think of, you'll be okay. There's also one last thing I want to mention. In the Sand Castle in Treasure Trove Cove, I believe you can type in washing machine, and then you will turn into a washing machine. And that is something to smile about. So all in all, Banjo Kazooie, hands down, without a doubt, I never paused to think about it. Banjo Kazooie 64, or just Banjo Kazooie, is and will probably forever be my favorite game. It's full of very fond memories. I replay it almost yearly at this point. And it's one of those games that always puts a smile on my face. And I look forward to playing it again and again and again, because I never get bored of the game. I never get bored of the music. I never get bored of the puzzles. I never get bored of the characters and interactions that you have with them. And to me, that makes it a perfect game. So, in the end, we're putting this in the only games that fucking matter category. Because you know what? It's the only game that fucking matters. Thanks for listening and or watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, everyone. I'm Yemmy the Ferret, and I'm out.